right. So, Shaniah, give me 3 words to describe you at the age of 15.
Dang, codependent, smart, um, I'm creative.
If you could have a conversation with the 15-year-old Shaniah, what would you start by saying?
Tell her to suit up and boot up, like, because the next few years of her life, I don't know how it's gonna go, but it was some hard times and some good times, but just ready yourself, because the good times don't really last forever. But for me, they ended, quite quick.
So, when you were 15, what's one of the greatest memories you can recall from that time?
Mm-hmm. In the summer, I went with me and my brother. We had went to, actually, we didn't go to Texas. We went to Michigan because my uncle had remarried. And so it was one of the first times that I was spending time with, who he remarried with and his stepchild and stuff like that. And it was cool because it was like more nature. And I'm not really into nature, but like we would just go and get on a trampoline and ride bikes. Like, I have not ridden a bike since I've been in Michigan with my uncle, but it was fun. And yeah, just got to spend time with him, have that meal present stuff. So.
So you mentioned that that was one of the times where you didn't really have to worry about nothing. What were some of your worries during that time?
I mean, there wasn't much to worry about. The biggest thing was like, am I gonna be able to ride the comfortable bike? Like, in my own life, I was just kind of like wondering what I was gonna wear next week to school. Like, could I draw this on this piece of paper that's not mine? Like, I was worrying about stuff that really didn't have no type of weight to nothing because I didn't have to really. It wasn't super important. It wasn't super life changing.
So your life then was pretty comfortable?
Yeah, I mean, my life has never really been comfortable. So, but at that point in time, like I was in a good spot. Like I was, I was 15. Anything that like happened to me, hardships, anything, I was young, so I forget it in like 20 seconds. But yeah, I guess I was at a good place.
So when did things start to shift for you?
After the Michigan trip, honestly. So after I had a really weird situation with my mom. And so when came back from Michigan, it was actually talking about me staying in Michigan because right before I went to Michigan, I had this altercation with my mom based on something that my brother did. And it was just like really wild. And so there was a real serious talk about whether I would stay in Michigan, go to high school, and like graduate from there and live with my uncle and his family, or if I would just go back and be with my mom. And just because of like custody and stuff, I just ended up going back with my mom at the end of the summer. And so then I kind of went left. We lived under my grandmother, and then my mom decided that my grandmother was out to get her, so she picked us all up and we moved to Richton Park, which is like south suburb for Matson actually. And I had a choice. I could have stayed with my grandmother or I could have went with her, but my grandmother was really much like stuck in like this religious state. And so we would just like clash all the time because I was still maturing into my religion anyway. And then she was making it better because she was like trying to press me down and it was just a lot. So I ended up going with my mom and staying with her. And we lived in this really nice house for maybe a year, 2 years, and then after that, it went left. Like it was horrible. I ended up moving out of my mom's house, living with my grandma, and that didn't go anywhere because at this time I was like 16 and a half, and I already felt so independent and like the world belonged to me. So we would clash because she was like, "Oh, you can't stay out past 10, and you can't." do this and you can do that. And at the time, also, I was going to All Nations Worship Assembly. And I had took a big break because my mom wasn't going and I really had no way to get there. But then I was trying to get there like on my own and my grandma like would not let me. Like I was trying to take the bus, she would not let me. So I was sad because I felt like super just in the house, restricted, bored, and then sad because I couldn't go to my church. And so I kind of like rebelled after that. I wasn't really listening to her much of anything. And then I left. And it was crazy because I don't even know. I just remember a bunch of police cars, and I was just gonna tell like, you're not gonna drive me to be crazy like my mom was. So whatever you're trying to do, like I'm just not with them. I'm just not falling for it. And so that didn't work out. And then I moved with my best friend, and I stayed there for a year, and that was fine. And then I moved in like the foster care system, so I just started moving all around until ended up here where I'm at today.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is quite the story. Wait, so do you believe your grandmother like viewed you the way she viewed your mother?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think that maybe not even if not like viewing me like my mom, I feel like she was more fearful that I would end up like her because I'm very much like my mom's child for the most part. Like outspoken, I look the most like her. Like we're just, and since my grandma was kind of in my life the whole time I was growing up with my mom because my mom was living with my grandma and it was like that whole big thing. I guess she just didn't want me to just fall off, but also just kind of listening to the voices at her church or whatever she thought God was telling her and just not allowing me, letting her fear kind of handicap me from growing up. Because I really didn't have that many friends. Like I only had Jeanette. And so when I would go with Jeanette. And everybody knew Jeanette. Like mom knew Jeanette. My grandma met Jeanette and her parents. Like, so yeah, I think it's because of maybe how she feared that, like, how my mom had turned out. But also too, she also hasn't really like didn't really know how to raise a child in this day and age. Mm-hmm. It's real different. Yeah.
So how do you think things would have turned out for you if you never broke out of her house?
I really don't think I would have ever not tried to leave her house.
Okay.
I'm the type I feel like if it wasn't one thing, it was another. Like when I wanted to start getting into like driving, there was a big hesitation on that. And when I wanted to go to my friend's house after school, there was a big like, well, what are you doing? She wanted me to go to her church. I was not going to go to her church. So I just didn't feel like that was a place for me. And she couldn't understand that I could live under your house and not go to the same church as you and not, and not have to diss that church. Go here. Like, you don't have to diss All Nations for me to want to go to your church because I don't want to go to your church. So I knew what I wanted earlier because I had to learn what I wanted quickly or else other people were going to take advantage of that. So when I figured like, I don't want to be here. I want to be at this house. I want to be able to live and breathe freely. Like, I don't want to be just wild out here, but I want to be able to go. And once I realized that at the core of that, like I would have to barter and ask and plead. Like I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that. I don't even know how I did that before. But I think one part of me kind of felt guilty because I know that my grandmother has been there for me a lot. But I had to kind of look past that because I'm not going to stay anywhere because I feel guilty.
Right. So does any part of you feel like you might have grown up too quickly or were forced to?
Yeah. I had to learn very quickly to advocate for myself because especially when I was in the foster care system, I've really been in the foster care system because my mom was in DCFS and everything like that. But when I was more into it, like 16 and a half, when I was living on 127th and Ada and 63rd and Kedzie, like that was where I had to kind of learn that if I didn't advocate for myself or speak up for myself, people would literally run over me. And it's like, or see me as this underprivileged, uneducated youth. And I've never been uneducated. Like my mom always put an emphasis on us being smart. So that was kind of all I had. So when I was on my own, I kind of had to navigate how to speak up for myself quickly because then I had to fight. Oh, how old are you?
So with you having to learn that so quickly, just how to advocate for yourself and speak up for yourself, do you think any of that hinders you now? The fact that you had to grow up so quickly?
Yeah. I think that my trust in people when I first meet them is significantly lower than maybe it should be. Like I'm very outgoing and anybody would tell you, but like when it comes down to the core, like I have no problem like drawing back because I'm not really too sure about trust. Trust wasn't really something I could give to people because they would mishandle it. So, but I think that maybe sometimes, if I feel that I'm being like counted out or counted against or if somebody's lying on me honestly or not just not being truthful or anything, it bothers me more because I kind of have to I feel like I have to fight for myself, fight for them to know that I myself wouldn't do this. So I think it does kind of hinder me in that sense. Sometimes I really see I'm a solutionist, right? So I see stuff so quickly. Like I was in the foster care system seeing these issues being solved so quickly, but I couldn't necessarily make the provision. So now when I see stuff happening and like in my day-to-day life and I'm like, the solution is simple and nobody knows it and all y'all are acting kind of slow, like I get really upset. But I think it's because like I've had to find a solution for myself and find it quickly in some situations. And I don't know if that hinders me. Maybe it kind of makes my friendships a little more. I don't know. It could be. I'm trying to think.
So how has that impacted your openness to being helped or supported?
Honestly, I am not one to ask for help. If I ask for help, it's literally because like I'm on like my last leg, which it probably shouldn't be like that, but like it is because I just, I don't know. I've never really been helped. I've been helped, I guess, when I really needed it, and people have extended their help, but it's always come with the price, or it's always come with like okay, I will, but we have to do this, and it's like, I kind of understand. I feel like I would want to do that anyway. If someone were to help me, I would want to like extend my help back to them in a future situation, but I don't want to feel as if this help is conditional. So I am probably like, I will not ask my friends or anybody for help unless I'm on like my last dime. Seriously, because yeah, I wasn't afforded help. I kind of forgot the question though.
But you answered it though.
Oh,
yeah, you answered it. Mm-hmm. So what or how did your faith play a part in that time of like struggle you experienced? How did you maintain a relationship with God? If you did.
Dang. I can't say that. So like from 2016 when I started living in my first foster home to like up until the point I was at my dad's house, my relationship with God was like really strong because I didn't like have anybody else. Like I had like my best friend and then God. And it was like I had to feel like keep myself above reproach or like above like floating all the time because it was nothing else. So when I was in these foster homes, I was all around Chicago. Like All Nations is like in the core. And so even just going to a house of God, house of faith that was far from whatever location because it was like that's what I had and learning God there and serving there and learning God period. It was kind of like a really hot thing for me and then started falling off. So yeah, I told God I still kind of am really upset at God. So I think that I'm kind of now just going through this phase of like daily deciding to be like submitted to this being or this person. And every day I'm not super decided. And I think because before I looked at him as like my only source, but then it was like I'm getting disappointed. Like, I'm doing all this. I'm pressing here, I'm walking here. Is people are taking advantage of me. Stuff that's happening to me. Not having money, moving here, moving there, not being able to decorate any house because I'm probably gonna leave the house in a couple of months. Like, all of that stuff kind of started to like wear down on me and like God's relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So I think now that, and then also I wasn't really able to like process it emotionally, like in a healthy way. So now I'm slowly starting to. So it's like slowly coming back to like the prime. But yeah, I think that it was strong in the beginning, and then all of the stuff of life continuously just keep coming down, keep happening, and I'm just like, well, I'm not too sure.
So does part of you feel like not much has changed since the harder times?
I mean, and there's a lot of stuff that has changed.
Okay.
So, like, I just think me as a person, I've changed. I don't know. Like, my relationships have slowly changed. And I have, like, more core people that, you know, in and out of religion that, like, are really there for me if I really need them. I still have a hard time admitting that I need them. I still have hard times, period. Hard struggles. And I feel like we all do, but it kind of hits me harder because first line of contact is myself. So, like, if you, I don't know, my car stopped working, I can't be like, hey, mom, do you know somebody? Like, hey, dad. Like, it's like, well, I gotta kind of figure this out for myself. And then that's more heavy on me than if I have an issue and I know somebody in the immediate line of fire that's able to resolve it. I feel like that's kind of been like a continuous thing throughout my life at that point. So I don't know. I think a lot has changed. I think that, but when harder situations come, I don't really think that they change much because they all kind of reoccur and happen. And yeah. Mm-hmm.
So what makes you strive to choose God daily?
Um. Well, I've been in so many situations that like were like, I know it sounds spooky, but like only God could have done it. Like literally. Um. Even when I like legit did not believe in him, and I'm not saying that this is like right, but there was like this one instance where I'm like, well, God, if you're ready to show me this, because it was just like I don't know what was happening, and literally 15 minutes later, he showed me that, like, or just even situations where I'm like, I don't know where I'm gonna live next. The door will be open, the opportunity will be open. There's so many instances where it couldn't have been anybody but God. So that's kind of why I still hold on to my faith, even though it's a little, rocky at times. But I'm still very much holding on, believing.
Okay. So what is your hope for yourself? Maybe the next 2 years?
I mean, physically, I want to graduate college. I think that that's like the main goal. I want to graduate college. I want to live somewhere, like consistently, solidly, like having a home versus being like tossed to and fro and not really wanting to be. But my relationship with God is way more stronger. I have like a super strong foundation, which is one of the other reasons why I'm super like strong in the faith because my foundation was strong. Um, and I just hope to be in a place of like stability.
Okay.
I think it's like more about stability for me for this part of my life in my journey.
So what do you think 15-year-old Shaniah's, or how do you think she would view seeing you the way you are now?
She would probably be confused because she's like, what do we have to worry about? I've never had to think about stuff like that. She probably would think that I'm strong. Probably be like, I don't know, how are you handling it? How are you surviving? Because the last thing on my mind is anything serious, any adult thing like at 15. I think she would just think that I'm really brave and like going through it and doing what I need to do. They should be proud, I guess. I don't know. So,
Are you proud?
of who? Of me?
Are there any parts of you that you're proud of?
Yeah.
Like what?
I was getting my next thought. Yeah. Um, I am proud that I am still striving and still have the fire. Like, even though I go through all this stuff, it's not really like my fire goes anywhere for like advocating and for creating. And I'm a creative, so at the core of a lot of my struggles, I kind of found that creativity and God have kind of pushed me through. And I'm proud of that. I love what I do. I love what I've been doing. I do a lot of production and stuff. And that's like my life's work. Like that's what I love to do every day. Like there's never a day I'm like, let's not go shoot something. Like I'm not shooting every day. But like I think that's something too, just that I was able to kind of find my identity and my creativity and just kind of find my identity and learning myself every day. I think I'm proud because I'm still learning about me. Like I be thinking I know so much about myself and it's like, nah sis, like look at this. But it's like I'm glad I know because now I know how to handle stuff and stuff gets better and it works out. So,
So, what advice would you give to a 15-year-old who's in the depth of the struggle right now and is wavering in her faith?
I would tell them in like the most simplest terms that you can have your emotional time and you can process and you can be upset and you can be struggling, but you kind of still have to be decided at the end of the day. You have to figure out, you have to decide for yourself. You know, I'm going to pursue God for myself, not for anybody else. Deciding to overcome the struggle, find solutions and resources for yourself. And like just kind of push through because the bad times don't last forever. But you're always kind of, there may be seasons of struggle, but you can have like that stability and that peace and whatever you desire at your age if you just decide to keep pushing through all the setbacks and stuff like that. Because people who quit, they don't have anything. So you could just quit. But I would probably admonish them to not quit and keep pushing forward and pushing through.
So, fast forward to now, what three words would you use to describe you at this age?
Hmm, decided. It's a cheap word, but I'm decided even through my most wretchedest moments and just all out wild moments. I'm decided on who I am and the God I'm serving. And yeah, that's one. Uh, Dang, describe myself now. Um, I'm more honest. I think that like I fear a lot of people will growing up and like going through different people and how if I didn't have certain conversations with people, would I get this or would I get that I needed? So I wasn't as honest with how I was feeling. So I think now I'm definitely more honest. I am almost a little bit too honest, but you know, I just can't lie no more. I can't. So yeah, and I think the final thing, um, dang, I don't know, dude. To describe myself now. The last word I guess I would use to describe myself now is resilient. I guess I was always resilient, but I didn't really notice it until now. Just the ability to like bounce back in a lot of off situations, even a lot of good situations, just like bouncing back and keep going and keep pressing and keep doing what I'm gonna do because I'm gonna do what I have to do regardless. So at the end of the day, it's like I could stay here and see nothing, or I could press through and make that happen. So that's gonna make that happen.
But thank you so much, Shaniah.
Thank you for
joining
having
us.
me.
Yes.